Before the Rings of Power, there were the Silmarils. Before Sauron, there was his master Morgoth. Before Aragorn and Arwen, there was Beren and Luthien. Join us as we explore Tolkien and all the ages of Middle-earth with your hosts from theonering.com, Jonathan Watson and Michael Grumbine.
This was a hard week, Michael. This was a very difficult
yeah?
week because I lost about 2 hours of my life, just completely gone down the drain. And
I enjoyed those 2 hours that I did not lose. Just let me tell you how much I enjoyed them.
To watching The Hobbit, the Battle of the Five Armies, the extended edition. It was a difficult time. I was smoking a cigar at the time, so it wasn't. I guess I was making a light lemonade out of lemons. Okay, it wasn't that bad, but man, like we're gonna go over this because in this episode, episode 150 of I'm trying to think, is it 150? Somebody mentioned sesquicentennial. Is that right? No, wait. What's this? Is okay.
I think so. I think it's right.
I don't know. That's a big long word.
Halfway through a century, a second century. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, our sesquicentennial celebration of the Exploring Tolkien podcast, number 150, guys, and number 35 of The Hobbit. Can you believe we spent 35? That is double because we are in. Let me confirm this here by getting our little thing. Yeah, we are in chapter 17. We've done more than one episode per chapter of The Hobbit. Sorry, more than 2 episodes per chapter of The Hobbit.
More than 2, yeah.
So
each chapter was more than
this deep dive. Like I've really loved it because I've never really looked at every detail of The Hobbit in such deliberate ways, and I've enjoyed it. And especially in this one here because it really made me look at how the battle takes place. So just so you guys know, in this episode, what we're going to do is Michael's going to be taking more the literary, military, scholastic, like this is how it's working perspective, and I'm going to take the what did they do in the movies perspective, because that's really the only place, because it's really hard. It is hard the first time you read this through to try and visualize how this battle is taking place. That's why I think the visual, the picture that's in the Atlas of Middle-earth of how this battle took place is actually really helpful. But in the films, they make some really odd choices because we're dealing with 2 orc armies that come from 2 different directions, but yet they're somehow with each other. It's very odd. So anyway, that's the way we're going to do it. We are going to take an extended, we're going to discuss in our extended edition one particular thing, and that's, we touched on it last week a little bit, but I think I want to get into it a little bit more about this battle seems sudden and it seems unexpected with the goblins coming. And that's because ultimately I looked in the books in my copy, it's about 150 pages from when anything happens with the goblins in Moria. I mean, they mention goblins like in looking back and recall in analogies, things like that, but they aren't a part of the story for 150 pages, more than half the book, until they just appear again in the film, and appear again in the battle. And it's all kind of unexpected. So we're going to talk about how earned is that, what should have been done, what could have been done maybe. Let's look at that in the same way that we looked at, what could have been done in the unfinished tale of Aldarion and Erendis, the mariner's wife. So we'll kind of like see like, okay, maybe this would have been different had Tolkien approached it like he would have approached Lord of the Rings. But that'll be in our extended edition, which you can get by going to theonering.com/member, becoming a member at $4 a month. First month it's free. So you can decide whether or not you want to support us with your hard-earned latte. No, not even latte. This is just like a grande coffee now. It used to be like, $2 is a coffee. $2 isn't even like
$3.95 now.
Yeah. I don't go there. Never. Everything we just do everything at home now. Anyway, but yeah, $4 a month. Or if you want to use Patreon, you can go there at $5 a month. Just at theonering.com/Patreon. We'll send you right there, and you can just subscribe there too. So we thank all our supporters. Colt, Lynn, and Rich, our MVPs and sponsors, who keep us going every week, every month, every year. It has been more than 3 years now we've been doing this.
Yes.
So we thank you guys. We love all your support. And give us a like on this video if you're watching on YouTube. Give us a 5 stars on Spotify or Apple Music. And let's get more folks reading Tolkien, more folks into the deep parts of Tolkien, because we are going to go deep next time. We're getting into the Children of Hurin after this. We'll have a little break as we go back into the changes in the films, but we're going to get deep into that. And just so you know, Michael, in lieu of that, on my trip to Virginia, where I was on vacation with the family, I did read the story of Kullervo, which is essentially the inspiration for the story of Turin Turambar. And this was written very early in his life. And so I decided, okay, let's get into some of the details about what he was actually saying and thinking about and wanting to make into a story of his own. So anyway, a little prep for the Children of Hurin. I was sitting there on the deck of the place we were at, and I'm like, I need a book to read right now. Oh, I should prep for the Children of Hurin. I think I have that book. That's something. I was like, oh, there's the story of Kullervo. I got that for like a while ago on my Kindle. So I read it. So we'll see where it takes us. But it'll be really interesting, guys. It'll be fun. It'll be a total 180 degree from The Hobbit.
Yeah, it is. The Children of Hurin is like Tolkien's anti-Hobbit. Everything The Hobbit is not.
Yeah.
Its tone is so not childish.
No, not
childlike
at all. Right. We deal with some serious issues. Though we do have other black weapons in there. Just like there's a black arrow here, we get a
black
nice
sword.
Black sword.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, go to theword.com/member. You'll get all that, and you'll get our monthly chat too. We just had one last week. It was great. It was good talking with all you guys. Somehow we always descend into discussions about Tolkien and AI because that's on everybody's mind and how it's affecting all of our lives and businesses and everything like that.
AI is a big deal.
It is.
Tolkien's a bigger and older deal, but in my mind.
All right. So, hey, let's jump into the second half, or the battles of chapter 17 of The Hobbit, The Clouds Burst. But before we do...
Hobbit Facts.
Okay, usually I like to make Hobbit facts actually factual about The Hobbit, but I did watch the Battle of the Five Armies extended edition this week. So this was an interesting fact to me because I didn't remember this because I've only seen the extended edition one time before this. And I think this is only my third watch through essentially of... I didn't even really watch it through. I kind of skipped a lot of the first 20 minutes or so just to get to the battle because the battle lasts the entire film pretty much. It's like an hour and 45 minutes or something like that. Because it starts with Smaug dying and all.
But is it a battle or is it a video game? That's my question.
That's what we will discuss because it certainly doesn't feel like a battle in the films. But here's what happens in the film. One, Bilbo, right in the books, as we'll learn in this episode, Bilbo gets bonked on the head by, I believe it's a stone, right? He gets hit by a rock and falls unconscious. He's put right out. He's knocked out, and he wakes up. But before he wakes up, before he's knocked out, he says the eagles are coming. He sees them, and then he's knocked out. So there's this little catastrophic moment that we have, and then we're like, oh no, what happened? In the films, what happens is Bilbo is there fighting with, I don't know, Balin, and he gets knocked on the head, I think by Bolg in the films, with just the back of an axe or something like that, and he falls unconscious. He's not even wearing his ring, but he doesn't say the eagles are coming. In the film, it progresses. The eagles come. He wakes up, and he's like, the eagles are coming. It's a very odd... The eagles are already there, and he says the eagles are coming. And I'm not, at least that's how I remember it. But that's so dumb. But he does it after he's bonked his head. It's so weird. It just felt wrong. Like, I don't understand that decision. They could have made it totally different.
Yeah, everything about the end of the chapter in Tolkien is gone from that. They want so much to do their video game fights with Balin and Bolg and Bilbo. Yeah. They're alliterative video game fights brought to you by the letter B. That they're willing to make the book's lines pointless. Like Bilbo's, it's his sharp eyes, we're told, that see it first, and the elves.
That's right.
The elves confirm it. So Bilbo's the one that's bringing everything in, to the news to the battlefield. So anyway, it's bad.
It is bad, and it didn't make me feel any better about it after reading The Hobbit in great detail and then getting back into the film. So it didn't, perhaps an extended time away from reading The Hobbit, I would have liked it a little bit better, but definitely not definitely not my jam. All right, so let's get into the second half of this chapter. The clouds burst. We're going to start with the line from Gandalf that says, "Halt!" cried Gandalf, who appeared suddenly and stood alone with arms uplifted between the advancing dwarves and the ranks awaiting them. So at this point, what's happened is that another blackness could be seen whirling forward. So there's something off in the distance, like these dark clouds had come over them, but another blackness is coming. It was like a vast cloud of birds so dense that no light could be seen between their wings. This is essentially the bats that are coming from Gundabad with the army of the orcs. Right. And Gandalf calls halt because the elves and the dwarves are about to do battle together. I just want to point out, before we get into this, right before this my favorite line in the entire chapter, just because of its beauty, is this. Did I mention this last week? I can't remember in the last episode. Winter thunder on a wild wind rolled roaring up and rumbled in the mountain, and lightning lit its peak. What a great alliterative, poetic phrase.
Yes, it's both beautiful in speech and it's imaginative in form, and it brings to mind the images.
Yeah,
it's wonderful.
Winter thunder. Okay, anyway, just wanted to bring that up.
Very wonderful.
So I'm going to bring up this image of the battle so that we can see a little bit better what's actually going on.
One of the things we want to talk about, we want to mention at least, is that Tolkien does go into the history of how the why are they being attacked by the goblins at this point. So he does spend a little bit of time talking about the Great Mountain Gundabad, which is far to the north and west of Erebor. It's at the end of the top north of the Misty Mountains, and that they had their hatred for the dwarves had kindled to a fury when they heard about the death of the Great Goblin. So it's all Gandalf's fault. So Gandalf slew the Great Goblin, but of course it was dwarves that were the primary focus, and so the goblins have spent the last, I don't know how much time has passed between the death of the Great Goblin and now. It's got to be more than a month.
I think it's like 2 months.
Yeah, I think it's 2 months because they're almost a month in Moria, I think, right?
Yeah.
Not Moria, sorry. Mirkwood is what I meant. So the other M. And there are like weeks in Mirkwood. And then, but anyway, so I think we got 2 months because they said 11 days in Dale, and 3 days up, not Dale, I mean Lake Town, and then 3 days up the Long Lake, and then so that's 2 weeks. And then they're here, and it's about another week for the death of Smaug, and then they come up again. No, 2 weeks in Lake Town, and then there's 11-day period after Lake Town by Smaug. Okay, so yeah, we're at like 2 to 3 months is basically. Sorry everyone for the stream of consciousness there. I was just piecing the time frame together. We're at 2 to 3 months. So in these months that have passed since the death of the Great Goblin, as Jonathan pointed out, 150 pages, the goblins have worked themselves up into a fury, and they have traveled by. Tolkien says they marched and gathered by hill and valley, going ever by tunnel and underdark, till and around and beneath the Great Mountain Gundabad of the north, where was their capital. A vast host was assembled. Now, so the movies almost got some backing on that one because it says they traveled by tunnel and underdark, but that's to go to Gundabad. And then once they're at Gundabad, then they travel overland and sweep down from the north. When they hear about the death of Smaug, it makes them happy.
Right.
So they come down from the north along the Grey Mountain Spur and then down into come upon Erebor. When Gandalf, so back to, now to the battle itself. So the specific, I agree with you 100%. This who's the author of the Atlas of Middle-earth? I forget her name. She did
Karen Wynne Fonstad.
Karen Wynne Fonstad. She did a wonderful job on this, and so this is exactly the picturing of this is excellent. Mm-hmm. So in the battle itself, what you have essentially is the town of Dale, the ruins of Dale, down below the two spurs of the southern, and he called them the southern and the eastern spurs of the mountain. And so what the free peoples do, what the elves, dwarves, and men do, is they set themselves up, as you said, on the spurs with the men and dwarves in one spur, the elves in the other spur, which, no accident, the dwarves hate the elves. The dwarves and the elves greatly dislike each other. So so that they're going to set up on opposite spurs. And then down, and then in front of every army, though, all ancient medieval armies, there's a vanguard. So this is the small group of scouts and the sort of the cream of the scouts and the first riders. In this case, they're goblin wolf riders, Tolkien says explicitly. So they sweep around on the east around that east spur, and they do not see the dwarves and men up on the mountains. So that's key to understand. Yeah. Tolkien just assumes that you get that. So they sweep across and towards Dale in the middle, but Tolkien says explicitly that they left. This is what I thought would have been cool. I don't remember them doing it in the movies, but maybe you can tell me if they did or didn't. But he said basically, a few brave men were strung before them to make a feint of resistance, and many there fell before the rest drew back and fled to either side. So you have to imagine like a vanguard moving down. So I'll go from this, moving down from the east and across the spur. And the vanguard is ahead of the main army. And they string out some scouts. The free people string out some scouts to stop the vanguard. So the vanguard spends time fighting, and the rest of the army, a goblin army, comes down and gets kind of stuck in around that spur at around Dale because of the fighting of these brave men, who are many of whom are killed.
Yes, remember the vanguard is the werewolves that come out of the mountain. There is nothing. There's no prequel to the great story of the battle here. It's just them.
All right. So what Tolkien is doing is it's his knowledge of medieval and ancient warfare that's informing this. What happens is if the vanguard had come in because the vanguard leaves some separation between themselves and the main army. Now, why is that? Because first of all, they're scouts and they report back. And second of all, if the vanguard gets attacked, they have some time to warn the army behind them, hey, there's an attack going on, and come and here are the details. What happens with this is the vanguard is only up against a small number of people, so they don't bother sending back a warning to hold off or anything. They just engage, and so the rest of the goblins and the wolves come around, pouring around that eastern arm, and they also engage, and they get kind of traffic jammed in Dale, fighting. And so instead of the vanguard itself being the only thing to bear the brunt of the elves' assault, because the elves attack first, the whole army, the whole first assault, gets caught. And so Tolkien says then that the elves come in and were the first. The elves were the first to charge. Their hatred of the goblins is cold and bitter. Their spears and swords shone in the gloom with a gleam of chill flame. So deadly was the wrath of the hands that held them. So Tolkien shifting into alliterative mode. It's awesome. Their spears and swords shone in the gloom with a gleam of chill flame. So deadly was the wrath of the hands that held them. You have hands that held, you have gloom and gleam, which Tolkien loves to put together, spears, swords, and shone. So he's this even in his description of the battle, he alliterates all over the place. What I thought was awesome too was we're given here a reiteration. And I've forgotten about this, but here we're given a reiteration of what we're told about Sting, which is because the elves make these blades, and the blades carry the memory of the elven hatred. That's why they glow blue.
Yes.
And so essentially, and did they do this in the battle? I don't remember them. All of the elves' blades should be like Sting. They should be on with a chill flame when the elves fight. Does that happen in the movie?
No, here. Let's see.
Which is ridiculous because it's so cinematic that it's perfect for a movie, and they don't do that at all. So again, stupid. But anyway, the elves come in, and the elves charge first.
Before we go more, I just want to point out how this is the point at which the elves have completely turned from the Otralalali elves of Rivendell to the elves that hate the goblins so much that they're like I don't have the phrase in front of me because I switched to where it was, but they are a war machine. They are there to battle them. They're not there to poke fun at a hobbit, right? It's so different. And those are completely gone. It's shifted 100% from those original elves that he introduced to us in Rivendell.
Right. Now we have elves essentially of like Gondolin and the Silmarillion.
Yeah.
Where these fell warriors and their hatred is with cold and bitter hatred, and they have wrath, and their weapons are flickering with this blue flame, and they shower the goblins with arrows, and they charge with 1,000 spearmen, and the rocks become stained with black with goblin blood. Tolkien says. So the elves come down from the southern spur, which is kind of a southwestern spur, and here they show them. Are these dwarves?
These are the dwarves.
Yeah.
And the elves have not moved yet. And so what happens is we were like, oh no, they're going to get attacked by all the orcs coming in. And then I see them now. Are they glowing? It does not look like they're glowing, those swords right there.
Doesn't it? Well,
no.
There's a little bit of not really. Well, see, like their blades are bluish, so maybe that's their for that shot. No. And by the way, this is an example of how to not do cinema. This is utterly stupid. So the dwarves have a shield wall, which is one of the best ways to fight an oncoming horde, and the elves launch over the top of the shield wall to get at the dwarf, which means the elves would have been slaughtered. They would have been like pushed back onto the spears of the dwarves.
The infantry of Middle Earth, the elves.
Yeah, they would be. This would be the stupidest thing, and they do it all because it looks cool to have elves jumping over dwarves. Like that's their whole purpose. Just like Legolas, Lord of Physics, and all of his moments. It's just we're just going to do this because doesn't your 6-year-old mind think that looks cool? And so this is really, really stupid.
And they're running over the heads of the dwarves too.
And they're not even spearmen. They were supposed to be spearmen, the elves that were attacking first. So anyway, this is all stupid. So in the book, the elves charge, and now there's a proper battle. You have to envision a proper battle like west of Dale, where the elves are fighting against this very confused and unprepared mass of vanguard mixed with main goblin assault. And they keep getting pushed. They can't run from the elves because their goblin army is sweeping in from their rear from the eastern spur. And so then, just as they were recovering from the onslaught and they had halted the elven charge, because of course there's way, way, way more goblins than elves, they get attacked from behind by Dane and Bard, by the dwarves and the men. And it says, the dwarves of the Iron Hills plunged in, wielding their mattocks. Upon the other side and beside them came the men of the lake with long swords. So the dwarves charged down with their war mattocks, which you showed a great picture of last week. I don't have last episode. And so now this is the classic, here's how a smaller force defeats a larger force. There's basically only two ways. One is guerrilla warfare over time, and the other is you capture an army and attack it from multiple directions and you break their morale. So because when the morale breaks, it doesn't matter what their numbers are, it sweeps through an army and they flee, and you can gain an upper hand. So this is the great plan of Dane and Bard and the Elven King and Gandalf, and it looks like it's going to work. And then the goblins from the north, and this is one area where I will quibble with the Atlas of Middle Earth, because it doesn't make much sense that the goblins will have come from the north, like that second assault line that it shows, that it's weaving its way across the highest points of the mountain. What makes more sense is that they would come up over that eastern spur, because there's like a backwash of goblins because they're all being choke pointed around, and so they would have come over the top of where Dane and Bard are. They would not have gotten to where the Elven King is at first. Now they might have kept pouring over and moving westward as they came over the spur, and then come down essentially onto Thorin's point, because we know by the time Thorin comes out, there are goblins throwing rocks at him from above. But it doesn't make any sense. They wouldn't have had the time to go past those highest points. I think the paths that Tolkien is talking about the goblins finding are the paths over the eastern spurs.
Yes. I mean, the one line in the book that says they're more than just the eastern spur, though, is goblins had scaled the mountain from the other side, and already many were on the slopes above the gate, which
Okay.
which is right here. So they do have to at some point come over at least to this point. Now she's making the claim they came even further over.
Which they have to, because they throw a rock and hit Bilbo in the head, and he's with the Elven King. So they do have to. They do have to eventually make their way. I still think what happens is you see the word goblins, wolves on that big thick black line on the right side of the picture. Goblins, wolves,
right there. Yeah.
Okay, so if I think they moved westward directly from that over the spur of the mountain and over into the gate, like they kind of swept in directly west from where those words are. That makes more sense to me than them, because the amount of time it would take for them to sweep in from that top spur, going over double spurs and through the mountain itself. That's going to be. I mean, there's really much harder.
What you're saying. So you're saying that they kind of went this way.
Yeah, and then up and then along the spur up above, and they might have kind of poured in all from the north, and so you have them appearing above the gate as well at the same time. But they've kind of come over the spur. It
seems pretty early to just
rather than to weave their way through multiple spurs and over the heights of the mountain.
Yeah. There's certainly artistic license here, and because he never mentions exactly where they break off from the main force. In order to hit the
it makes more sense to
make
sweep in from the west in my mind, and they still get over the spurs, over Bard, over Dane, and over the gate, and then eventually work their way as the battle goes over to the Elven King side.
I'm really sorry to those of you who are listening to this because it's really hard to see this. So if you want to see, I'll link the image that we're using in the podcast notes. But if you really want to see exactly what we're talking about, go to the YouTube link and check it out there.
So anyway. For those of you that are just audio, let me just say real quickly: imagine that the southern to the two spurs to the one to the south, one to the east are like the pincer claws of a giant crab, and they're spread wide. They're coming down from above. So you imagine a crab claw, and the two parts of the claw are the two spurs, and the joint where the two claws meet is like Erebor, the mountain of Smaug itself, and eventually the gate where Thorin comes out. Okay, and then so all the battles taking place between the two crab claws, between those two spurs, and Dale is like outside of the crab claws, in the middle in the space between the two. So around the crab claw in the east comes the big goblin force, and then eventually up and over that claw, I say, and then down upon the free peoples from above. So essentially, that's what happens. So all the free people's plan is foiled because the goblins have come on them from above as well as around the spur, and so now they have to fight in two directions. And so now they can't just crush the goblins below them. Now, and as anyone that has studied medieval and ancient warfare knows, higher ground is an amazing advantage in ancient warfare. It is incredible.
Or if you've seen Revenge of the Sith, we know this as well.
Oh, jeez.
You walked right into that.
That I did, and I mean that was what made it so stupid. Was like with the Force, there is no advantage of higher ground. You can just leap and throw yourself and throw things, and
unless you don't leap high enough and you didn't use the Force enough. Right,
you just leap just within lightsaber range and have your legs cut off. All right. Anyway. Spoiler alert, maybe?
No,
20-year spoiler alert?
No.
25 years? Anyway, all right. So now the free peoples are kind of stuck because their advantage on the slopes has been negated by the goblins coming down over the eastern spur and over the gate. And so things look bad. And then Thorin appears. And even when I was a kid, I thought, okay, so Thorin appeared, and he looks really cool with his golden armor flickering like flame, but he's got 13 guys. Okay, like you can't turn a battle of thousands and thousands with 13 guys, but you can. The key is that people rally to him. So he come while the peoples are, and you have to from the picture you have to imagine. Right below where it says Thorin, all of that area, or most of that area, is now occupied by goblins. They have, so he comes out, and then the dwarves rally to him. So that's That's the point.
Let me point out that this is another weird decision that occurred to me as I was watching the films. They decide that he's going to go out in his smoking jacket, essentially. Where's his arm? None of them are wearing the armor that Tolkien mentions in here, gleaming. Nothing at all says they're warriors for battle. It's before this here that there's actually like where he's sitting on the throne and still in the throes, right, of his.
And there he has his armor.
Yeah, and he has his armor on, but he takes it off in order to fight the battle. Right, there's his armor.
Holy mackerel! That is
really
so stupid.
Odd choice. I like it. It's a thing that the choice was made for some reason. I just don't understand why they're trying to make him the everyday hero now because he's not in a dwarven armor like every other dwarf on the battlefield, or none of the dwarves of the company are actually in armor as they move forward.
Why on earth would they not be in armor? That's so weird.
Because here's why. They are the heroes of the video game, and when you play one of the player characters of the video game, there is no danger to you,
right.
because you're
plot
just
armor is the best armor.
They're just fighting the creeps, and until you hit the actual boss of the level you're on, that's when the real danger is. So at this point, it doesn't really matter, and so you're just leveling up through all the creeps till you have enough life and mana in order to attack the boss at the end. That's really what the whole battle felt like until he hit Azog at the end, and Legolas killed Bolg, but Bolg had already killed, like Killy and Philly were dead, and Thorin was dying. Toriel almost died. Anyway, all that sort of stuff. So the armor thing still drives me bananas because it doesn't make any sense. Put them into different armor if you want to get rid of his kingly armor, but do something like look at the rest of the dwarves behind them, right?
But why would you? But why would you even want to get rid of his kingly armor? That's just dumb.
Well, I don't know. Or give him something else that looks different than what he was wearing, but still is very, very royal, right? It looks different than the other dwarves. Give him like I'm here to actually take control of this battle, and look at me. I'm gleaming brighter. I am more powerful than any other dwarf on the battlefield.
Yep.
Anyway, okay.
It says hood and cloak were gone.
Yes.
They were in shining armor. Nope. A red light gleamed from their eyes. Nope.
Another red light gleaming.
In the gloom, the great dwarf gleamed like gold in a dying fire. That's a wonder. It's such an awesome alliteration.
My gosh, I love it, man. He's really coming into his own, like with his ability to make prose more than just a sentence.
Yes, it's so true. And the movie failed as always.
It's like, just take this line. In the gloom, the great dwarf. I wanted to add another alliterative word there. The great dwarf gleamed like gold in a dying fire. Missed opportunity here.
Super.
Like we had so much, but he spent so much time on making Dane completely CGI, on making a battle he tried to make better than the Pelennor Fields, but it just felt like you're playing Gauntlet back in 1995.
Yeah, that's right. It did. Yeah, that's good analogy. Gauntlet was what the whole thing felt like. It's a video game.
If for those of you who've never played
unlimited ammo, shooting things.
You play, what is it? You have an archer, you have a barbarian, you have a
mage.
A mage, is that it? The three? There were four.
Archer
mage,
is the elf.
Archer is there
barbarian, mage, and was there some thief type? Was there a thief type?
Yeah, something like that. But in any case, all it is it's one of the original dungeon crawlers, and you have tons of creeps that spawn from different locations on the map. They have a Valkyrie. Okay, that's what it is.
There you go, Valkyrie.
An elf. Barbarian. Anyway, so that's what this felt like, and they made a mistake here. So, where were we? Sorry to drive us aside from this discussion.
Now everything that's going ahead through my head is Valkyrie needs food.
I know, right? I always think wizard needs food because I always play the wizard.
Valkyrie is about to die.
Dude, we went on a short trip to a lake. My in-laws invited us out, where they rented a house and wanted to bring all the family together. The place had one of those like video game systems downstairs. We had a bunch of video games. One of them was Gauntlet, and my kids were playing Gauntlet for way too long when there was a lake right outside. But I was just sort of like, it's Gauntlet. Like you can enjoy it, and it was like unlimited lives You could just keep going and play to the end. We realized there is no end to Gauntlet. It doesn't really seem like it.
No, it doesn't.
Just keep going.
You just keep going forever. By the way, another quibble. Thorin's supposed to have an axe. He has a little sword here.
You're right. Yeah.
Everything is dumb.
Dude,
Okay.
Here, let me show you something. Like when this happens, I don't know how all of a sudden the aim becomes great. Watch all the. Do you see all the trolls here in their battle armor? Just watch. There's one's down. The other one gets hit here. So one here at about 10 o'clock here.
Both of them are getting hit. All of them are getting hit.
Okay, the one on the left gets hit. One on the top gets hit, and then the other one. They all die. What is the point of trolls if they all die before actually hitting the battle lines?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Everything is CGI.
Yeah.
Shouting in Dwarvish.
Let me do that. There we go.
Yep. Interestingly, it says down. Heedless of order, rushed all the dwarves of Dane to his help. So Dane's dwarves just run down and join him.
Yeah.
And then down 2 came many of the Lakemen, for Bard could not restrain him. So Bard's trying to stop him, but that doesn't work. And so they all come down. And so now they're all of a sudden, and the important part of this from a tactical perspective is that there's the elves, the dwarves, and the men prior to Thorin's charge had been in their basically bottled up in their respective areas, being assaulted from many sides. And Bolg and his bodyguard are in the center of where Dale is, basically directing everything up and outward. And then all of a sudden, they get a surprise attack from the right near where they are, the heart of where Bolg and his bodyguard are. And that's what causes all of the confusion. That's why, a few dwarven heroes who are now heroic, because the transition has been made here to epic, from the dwarves that were too scared to go down the tunnel to fight Smaug. Now all of a sudden they're the heroes of the moment, or to even to look at Smaug. So now all of a sudden they've attacked, and they're right at the heart of the Goblin army, and they push deeper and deeper, and they almost get to Bolg, but they finally founder upon the bodyguard, which does not give way. And so Thorin drove right against the ranks, right against the bodyguard of Bolg, but he could not pierce their ranks. And so he's pushing farther and farther, and he's stopped, and then around him everyone else pushes up to him, but they can't get through, and the flanks were unguarded. And so now becomes the third assault, where the goblins come in and surround them, and everyone becomes these little hills of resistance, hemmed about on all sides by goblins.
And then you can see that essentially even right here, how there's this encircling action happening.
Right.
Around Dale.
And then all throughout it, there are goblins up on the spurs of the mountains throwing stones at everyone. It even mentions that they threw stones out at Thorin and the force as they come out of the gates, but they push it onward anyway. So now we're in the final stage. It looks like the Free Peoples are going to go down finally. And Bilbo is with the Elven King.
Which isn't
interesting.
I was just going to say that. Let me read this paragraph here. On all this, Bilbo looked with misery. He had taken his stand on Ravenhill. Ravenhill, in case you're watching, this is Ravenhill right down here in the southern spur. Partly because there was more chance of escape from that point, and partly, with the more tookish part of his mind, because if he was going to be in a last desperate stand, he preferred on the whole to defend the Elven King. Now, why do you think he preferred to defend the Elven King?
It's a good question. I mean, the Elven King has given him great compliment, but the Elven King was, he imprisoned his friends.
I know. It's a very curious choice that he wrote this, and I don't exactly know why, because it honestly doesn't make sense to me that he would choose to defend the Elven King. Perhaps.
Well, so I can see here the echoes of the Hobbit obsession with elves. So we see it in Sam throughout Lord of the Rings. We see the hobbits who have any contact with elves are kind of in awe of them, and so I think the elves work. Their effect on hobbits is strong, and maybe Bilbo is starting to feel that effect. I don't know. What do you think?
Is it, or it could be that, I mean, he didn't leave on such great terms with Thorin either at this point.
That's right.
Right. He it's not like he's thinking like, well, Thorin's going to accept and I'm going to be part of the company again at this point.
Also, what are his choices? So he's either going to be in the middle of the fighting, which he's no good at. So that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Even Gandalf's not there in the middle of the fighting. He's either going to die with the elves, die with the dwarves, who he doesn't know because the only dwarves he knows are in the midst of the fighting. So he's going to die on the hills with Dane. Actually, there is no dying with Dane because all of the dwarves from Danes have come down and some of them in. So he's either going to die with the elves or he's going to die with the men. There's your choice. Or he's going to be useless in the midst of the fighting. And so he chooses the elves. So maybe it's just a...
It's his Tookish side. One, he did want to escape. He would like to survive. Two, probably the
Baggins side, yeah.
The Tookish side is
no, the Baggins is the wanting to escape part. The Tookish side is wanting to make a last stand.
Oh, right. Okay, yes. Perhaps also he looks at the armies of the elves and goes like, those gleaming swords. I'm thinking they might have a bit of a better chance than the dwarves or the people around him.
Also, I've got a gleaming sword too. I belong with the gleaming swords.
I match. They'll never notice. Okay, let's talk about the movies a little bit because it's very different. So at this point in the books, they're surrounded. There's no hope, and then we'll get into the last things that Bilbo says here because it's some curious statements that he makes too. I think as he sees the hopelessness of the battle unfolding around him or before him. In the films, the Five Armies are different than the Five Armies in the books. In the books, the Five Armies are the elves, the dwarves, the men, the goblins, and the wolves or the wargs.
Yep. 2 baddies, 3 goodies.
Yeah. In the film, the armies are the dwarves, the men, the elves, the southern orc army, and the northern orc army. So in the films, what happens is the original army of orcs essentially comes from the south. There is no army coming from the north because Azog, the white orc, if you remember, the white dwarf is just I was thinking about the Rings of Power and I had to make that distinction. So the white orc, he sets up here on Ravenhill. There is no Thranduil going to Ravenhill in the Southern Spur in order to set up a battle. It's him that sets up his flags that do the little movement things in order to command his armies. His armies then all the way from over here. I don't have a scale here. It's a couple miles. All the way from over here. His wereworms with his armies come out over here in the Eastern Spur. Somewhere in this area here. So Dane is already here. Dane, we assume, has come up right already in this part. There's a hill that he appears on to the Elven army, just below or just to the west of the Eastern Spur. He never makes it up into the hills. Dane never makes it up into the hills. The entire battle takes place here in front of Dale from the orc armies that have come out of the holes dug by the wereworms that that puncture the mountain. Yeah. So, but he's commanding all the way over here, and there's this one scene. I'll find it in a little bit as we get through. There's this one scene where Azog is standing here, and it almost looks like he's actually standing here, like just below the gates, because you can see Dale, you can see the causeway over the river here to Dale, because there's this large causeway, there's this large bridge that goes over the river right into Dale, and then you can see the holes in the mountain. I'll see if I can find this real fast.
From the wereworms
still, and so it's this very odd
from
visual. And I couldn't figure out like what exactly they're doing. I apologize to all y'all who are like watching this going like, what is he doing with fast forwarding through all this? I didn't have this set up. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's this vision of the land laid out before Azog it just didn't make any sense. Oh man, I just watched this here and I'm just so disappointed.
Yeah,
in how they,
I think the reality, and what's interesting is as we're watching you flip through the images, it makes it clear. The movie is about individual one-on-one confrontations. It's all about the individual one-on-one confrontations. It is a video game. It's like a series of video game scenes. Everything about the movie. Tolkien's work is not. His work is the description of warfare, what happens en masse. Yes, there are some heroic moments where there's charging and fighting on individual levels with Thorin and the dwarves against the bodyguard of Bolg, for example.
Right.
But then ultimately we're going to hear about the final confrontation between Bolg and Thorin, and then Bjorn comes in. So you have some heroic moments, but most of the battle from Tolkien's perspective is as a battle should be, which is here are the large movements, here are the things that happened en masse, because you're talking about literally thousands and thousands of people against for whom the fate of the battle, on whom the fate of the battle rests, not mostly on the individual vignettes. But everything in the movie is individual vignettes. It's just like the battle against this orc, or this troll, and that troll, and this orc, and this person almost dying, and that person almost dying again, blah, 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 blah. And so it's just back and forth, and then, stabbing through the ice, and like, okay.
I was just so disappointed watching it, knowing that what could have been done. And I think his idea was just to make it bigger and better than the Battle of the Pelennor Fields, and it failed so dramatically that it's just not even worth watching.
Right, we could do a whole movie as battle, basically. Yeah.
Look at 5 armies now instead of 2. Well, 3, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Because isn't in the movie, didn't they come from Dol Guldur, one of the armies?
Yeah, they came from the south, because Azog's been following them the whole time. So that's why he sets up over here on Ravenhill, because he's coming from the south. And then they do mention, right, and then Tauriel and Legolas end up going to Gundabad, which is an original, which is near Mount Gundabad, which is where the dwarves woke up, and it's been fought over for the second age and the third age, and right now the dwarves are holding it. Sorry, the orcs are holding it.
It's like 1,000 miles away or something.
Yeah, like, look, it's 200. Like, this is 200. We're talking like 400 miles away. They're coming from up here, Mount Gundabad. I don't know if you can see this here. Right? Can you see that? Yeah. And they come all the way over here, and then I guess
about 4. Oh, it's only 400 miles.
Only 400 miles, right? It's in Rings of Power. In Rings of Power geography, it's an afternoon walk.
That's right.
A Sunday afternoon stroll over to Moria. Well, if you watched our okay. And then the other orcs are coming over here because they've been following Thorin ever since being on the west side of the Misty Mountains. Like the whole time they've been following him around, right? They meet with him. The reason that they're attacked by wargs after getting out of Goblin Town, so to speak, out of escaping from the mountains, is because Azog's been following them, and that's who attacks them. And so they've been following him, and then they get away, they meet Bjorn, and then,
The hilarious thing to me is the conceit that the movie has this conceit that there, like you said, there's 2 evil armies, one from the north and one from the south. And the conceit of the northern army is that they were traveling in tunnels. The reason nobody saw them is because they were traveling in tunnels from these wereworms.
Yeah.
That were like, so the wereworms traveled like hundreds and hundreds of miles creating these tunnels to pop up on the hill. So they traveled like, since they had to go curves, or maybe they didn't have to go curve, maybe they went straight. So let's say they traveled 400 miles under these wereworms did to pop up in the mountains right behind the armies, where the armies of good, the elves and the dwarves, where if they had traveled 400 miles and a football pitch, they could have come up right in the middle of the dwarves and elves, and the battle would have been over. It would have destroyed all the elves and dwarves immediately. Oh yeah, there they are.
Kaboom.
Oh,
I always wonder, how does the physics of this work when there are wereworms like traveling through here, and the orcs are just following them through their tunnels that they're making, like with all the detritus in there.
Nothing makes sense. It's like, I guess they get pooped on continuously. The dwarves do, the orcs do, as the wereworms come out of the ground.
I guess. But what's funny is they do, like, as soon as the wereworms retreat into those holes right there.
Yeah.
Okay. There's that picture. This is Ravenhill. So somehow he sees them way over here. There's Dale here on the right. You see that?
Yeah.
And there are the holes. That means that it's all incredibly close.
Definitely Eastern Spur. And then he yells, "Come forth, my armies," which none of them would be able to hear, of course, because he's like,
right.
mile and a half away.
You realize, and how much time did he need to set up those nice big flags and bring them over without anybody else noticing it for a very long time on the highest point in the entire battle? And they just pour out. I don't know where the wereworms went, unless they create little side alleys for them to sort of rest in.
They're wereworm ninjas, Jonathan. They just disappeared into the shadows.
Yeah. See, this is the thing that bothered me. Figure this out for me. Okay. So right there. Okay. So we're on Raven Hill right there in the bottom right.
Here's the causeway.
Here's the causeway. Here's the river. Yeah. This is the eastern spur.
So to the left is the gate.
So the left is the gate. So really what's happening is Raven Hill has to be essentially right here. Like
contrary to the Atlas of Middle-earth, I imagine what Jackson is doing is imagining the southern spur being not a southwestern spur, but a direct southern spur. I think he's imagining the southern spur being like,
but it goes like right next to Dale.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a very
basically it creates a valley for Dale between the two spurs.
Yeah.
But
anyway, there you go. That bothered me a lot because I was looking at the map and I was looking at where things would have to be and where the armies were, and then I realized, wait, he's setting up in a hill all the way on the other side of like he's essentially cutting himself off from his own armies by putting a river between him and his armies too, and on the armies of the elves and it just. Like you said, strategy was not on Peter Jackson's mind as he was doing this. The video game / special effects aspect of it was.
Exactly. This is exactly right.
All right. Well, so let's.
How many gleams in the gloom are there? There are so many. We've read 3 of them, and I just found a fourth one.
Which one? So there's the gleam of chill flame from the elves. There's the red gleam in the eyes of the dwarves. Or sorry, in the eyes of the elves.
In the gloom, the great dwarf gleamed like gold. So there's a gleam in the gloom there. Then the elves are the first to charge, and they have a gleam in a gloom. Their spears and swords shown in the gloom with a gleam of chill flame.
Well, it's either gleam, gloom, grim. Those are the 3 big words that we get here. The men are grim. The armor and the weapons gleam, and the atmosphere is always in a gloom.
That's right. And then at the end of the chapter, let's see, I just saw it.
Are we talking about what with Bilbo? Or are you talking about?
Yeah, with Bilbo.
Let's see. Yes, seeing the sudden gleam in the gloom, Bilbo looked around. The clouds. This is right. The clouds were torn by the wind, and a red sunset slashed the west. I love that. The sunset slashed. Seeing the sudden gleam in the gloom, Bilbo looked around. He gave a great cry. He had seen a sight that made his heart leap. Dark shape, small yet majestic, against the distant glow.
This totally has to be the name of this episode. Just the gleam in the gloom.
The gleam in the gloom.
I know it's not direct. I know it's not good.
There's no clickbait in that, man.
There's no clickbait. Yeah. But it's all gleaming and glooming. And I thought there was a fourth one. I think there is. But anyway, I can't find it right now. So anyway, so Bilbo notices that the eagles are coming. And so the eagles have been disturbed by the goblins gathering, and so they have decided to join the fray. When I was a kid, I always thought that they were the Fifth Army. I thought it was 4 versus 1. But then as I went through and reread it, I realized no,
he explicitly states
the wolves are the Fifth Army. Yeah. So anyway, the eagles come in long lines. It says line after line, in such a host as must have gathered from all the eyries of the north. So the eagles are coming in line after line, and I like the Atlas of Middle-earth. It shows them sweeping down in different arcs along the spurs to defend the free peoples and attack the goblins and wolves. So there we have it. And then bonk, Bilbo everything goes dark.
Yeah.
As Bilbo gets hit on the head. It's funny because all these time we've been told about goblins casting stones from great heights. So Tolkien really has been foreshadowing what's going to happen. It's like, this happens, and then suddenly, the first assault is a success by the goblins is a failure, and the men are a success until the goblins come over the spur and then start throwing stones. And then Thorin charges out, and the goblins start throwing stones. And then finally, at the end, Bilbo is standing with the Elven King, the goblins finally hit an invisible person.
with the stone. I want to look at also Bilbo's response to being on the losing side of a battle when he thinks all is lost, and it's such a hobbity response.
Yes.
To it, and I'll snip it up a little bit. He says, "It will not be long now," thought Bilbo, "before the goblins win the gate and we are all slaughtered or driven down and captured. Really, it is enough to make one weep after all one has gone through. I have heard songs of many battles, and I have always understood that defeat may be glorious. It seems very uncomfortable, not to say distressing." I wish I was well out of it. It's just that the master of the understatement, Bilbo Baggins, the Baggins side hits, is like, it's losing a glorious battle is uncomfortable and distressing.
Very uncomfortable. Not to say distressing.
I wish I was out of it. So I just thought, like, what a great way to bring us back to Bilbo, rather than him being the hero like he is. Even in the movies, he's trying to fight battles with his little sword, but what he does grab rocks and he throws at them. But boy, he can hit those dwarves or those orcs from any distance with the stones he picks up. He's like David without a slingshot. He's got no problem at all hitting those orcs. But here, Bilbo doesn't do anything to affect the battle. Nothing, right? He's not really doing much at all. He's just kind of invisible and making sure he stays out of it. But then when he's lost, right, the Hobbit side of him, the desire for comfort, uncomfortable, and ease, it's distressing. So he brings us right back. This grand battle with gleams and glooms and grim men, but the Hobbit side is what we remember. Because that's what he focuses on here in the last few paragraphs.
We love hobbits. Hobbits are the lovable part of this world.
Yes, yeah, and like C.S. Lewis said, once you put hobbits in uncomfortable situations, then it gets interesting, and that's where we find ourselves right here. And it is interesting. And so he gets bonked, and everything goes dark. He knew no more, and then we're on into the final 2 chapters of The Hobbit. We're on to the return journey. Is it 2 chapters, right? There's 2 chapters.
Yeah, 2 chapters. The return journey, which is funny because we have to wait till the return journey chapter to find out what actually happened at the end of the battle, which is quite impressive, actually.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about the Orc Army in the extended edition and its sudden appearance and if it's earned. And also I'd like to talk about a little bit about the films and if the films could have been a better adaptation if they would have followed what the books did. Would it have been good if we followed Bilbo and we just, once he got hit, there was a small fade out and then we get to the end of the battle once he sees the eagles are coming? I'm not sure, but let's talk about it in our extended edition.
I suspect that there will be at least one disagreement between us and one agreement on these major points.
All right, I'm curious what you think. All right, so join us there. Go to theonering.com/member or theonering.com/Patreon. It's $4 a month. First month is free. Patreon's $5 a month, and the first week, I think it's free. I don't think they give you a whole month option, so it's just the first week is free. So join us there, guys, and we'll see you on the other side.
And for all of you freeloaders, here comes the stone from above.